You are now listening to the Project Kuwait. Where we stop at nothing to bring you the right facts on health, fitness, and psychology. Featuring some of the world's most experienced professionals so you can learn, live, and live. With your hosts, Meg, Dr.D, and Mehdi.
This episode, people, I went off on tangent because I needed to release some of this anger of how people abuse psychologists. But I also talk about core belief. I tied it into your self-esteem. And Mehdi, of course, always gets in trouble.
Yeah, I talked about the trouble I caused on Instagram. And I also talk about a book that Meg refuses to believe that I actually read. It's called The 4 Agreements by Don Ruiz. I talk about that a little bit toward the end of this episode, I think to the hour mark. Dr. D gets into it real good, talking about core beliefs and value systems, what we should instill in our kids. And it's a great episode for anyone who is a punching bag in the service industry, whether you're a trainer, life coach, psychologist, or a doctor. If you're a punching bag, listen to this episode. See if that you're dealing with people ethically and let us know how you feel and leave us a rating and review and enjoy the episode.
They don't get a t-shirt?
You guys get a t-shirt if you leave us a rating and review.
All this and more in today's episode.
In this episode of The Project, I am Dr. D's shrink today because she had a day from hell yesterday, apparently, that we are all going to hear about.
Well, thanks for that introduction.
You're welcome. Hey, we all get stressed. So let's hear about it. Like, you got me pumped.
It wasn't a rough day, but it was a time where I was thinking, which leads us to our topic today, why I picked it. Because yesterday I felt I was teaching, and then in the evening I had teletherapy, and I felt I was constantly trying to help people understand your value systems and your core belief and how they're connected to your confidence and your self-esteem and sense of worth. And it's so frustrating because people really, when you talk about values, sometimes people think it's religious values. I'm not talking about religious values. We're talking about core belief that we all have, but also how much people really don't understand that there are certain belief and values that we have to stay true to it. That was one thing. So I felt like I was spending all this time trying to educate, and sometimes it gets really frustrating. I know that they're clients and they're struggling with issues of their own, but that was not the top of it. The top of it is I have this client who's been depressed for a long time, and I've only been seeing him. He's not very consistent, and I've only seen him like 3 times. 2 days ago, not yesterday, the day before that, he sends me a message and says, you have to help me. You cannot just give me talk therapy. I want to see improvement. I'm not seeing improvement. And I'm thinking, this is the way he talks to me in a message. And then yesterday he had an appointment, but just before his appointment, 2 hours, sends me another message in Arabic saying, I need you to do more. You can't just give me talk therapy. I am paying for these services, just like that, that tone. And need to give me things I need to improve.
Fired.
Okay, here.
No, you should fire the client. You should definitely fire the client.
And you were thinking about, do you really fire a client? Do you accept someone talking to you like that? When in reality, I've only seen this person 3 times. I have encouraged him, and he really drains you because they're very clinically depressed. He's older and he's been like this for a long time. And takes a lot of energy for me to convince him he needed medication. Yeah. And then when he got the medication, he wasn't taking it. And then I had to talk more talking therapy and encouraging him. He Googles. I have to explain to him, don't worry, all the time on a message with him. Take it. This will really help you. Just really supporting him. Then teaching him about how important it is to walk, to change your diet. You are overweight. You have to lose your weight. You also have to make sure that you're in the sun 20 minutes. And he started doing all that and journaling. And then suddenly in 2 messages, 2 different days, trying to minimize the effort I have put in.
Yeah.
Minimizing the idea that I haven't made any changes when really you have, and expecting miracles when 40 some years you've been in the way you have been. You've been depressed for a long time, and suddenly expecting that it's my problem because you're only giving me talk therapy. And you know how many times I've explained to him and to other clients, look, I know when you're ready for certain behavior modification. You are not ready for anything but these steps. We start, and I've explained to this person in particular, A baby doesn't run and doesn't walk, he crawls. And in psychotherapy, it's the same thing. I have to evaluate what are you ready for, because I'm not going to waste time talking to you about something more psychodynamic, more in-depth when you're not really going to understand it. You haven't even crawled, you're not walking. And when you're running, I give you other tools. And suddenly this idea that you have failed as a therapist because you haven't given me all these things that I need, you haven't changed me, I haven't seen any improvement. And the frustration is you see that with a lot of clients, more with this guy. But the idea is that they think you are the psychologist and you are supposed to cure me within this 5 sessions when you've been like this all your life. And part of my job is to give you tools. The bigger part is for you to use these tools to be able to improve your condition.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, what should I do? Should I wait? And then the idea of I'm paying you. First of all, he hadn't even paid for his session, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm very flexible. If, other therapists and other psychologists would want you to pay before they even call you. A lot of time, most all the time, I'm very flexible. I even will make the call and not demand that you pay. And then you can pay later. That's not that important to me. But obviously, if you fall behind, there's not going to be a lot of sessions, not because it's my rule, but it's the clinic rule, right?
Yeah.
So this guy hadn't paid. He's always late in his payment and drains me because he's not just taking one session. He's also taking a lot of messages that I don't charge for, and suddenly trying to dump his issues on me. And I was thinking, I got annoyed and I felt, why is this guy triggering me? And because he was minimizing a lot of things, I thought, what should I do? Technically, I should have waited till his session time, even though I hadn't paid for it, and really go over this. And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. Because obviously this guy, if he's doing this with me, I'm not your friend. I'm your psychotherapist. I'm not someone you're just going to dump your shit on me because you haven't done any work. And then I have to take responsibility that I'm doing something wrong. I'm sorry. I'm not doing anything wrong. I've made a lot of improvement. And I thought, okay, Juliet, what would be the ethical thing to do? And I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to wait till I call him. I am going to cancel the session. And I left a message saying to him the following: I am sorry you don't think that I've met your expectation. I am sorry that you continue to minimize the hard work that we have been doing together. And then I reminded him of all the steps that he has taken within this time that I've been with him. And the only support system he has is me, obviously. And for you to minimize and to continue sending me messages that are rude, that are very, very disrespectful.
From what you've told me, that because some of those are belittling, and it's like, dude.
And I'm not your girlfriend. I'm not your friend. I'm your therapist. Anyways, I left this message and I thought time came. Of course, I have a waiting list. So I just gave it to someone and someone took it right away. So I'm talking to this other person. He keeps on sending me messages and calling me as of this sense of expectation. I was scheduled with you at 7. You have to talk to me at 7. And I didn't answer. I declined the call several times. And then first he says, I'm sorry. I know I had a rough day and I was just trying to release my anger. No, you don't release your anger this way. I'm sorry. If people think that therapists and psychologists are supposed to be your dumping ground, I totally disagree with that.
Or a punching bag. That's horseshit. You're not his punching bag.
And you want to do that to your friend is okay, but you can't use my number to continue belittling that what the stuff we've done and that I am such a terrible therapist that you haven't made any improvement when you're 40 some years old, and that's going to take work. I think people don't really have an understanding that therapy requires time. The longer you've been depressed, the longer you're going to need to take sessions. Just because you're paying, it doesn't mean that I'm a miracle worker. And if you don't understand the process, which by the way, I have explained the process so many times to this guy, and it's draining. On top of this, I have accepted the energy that they suck out of you because that's part of our job. But to be able to say to me, well, it's your fault. I haven't seen any improvement. I don't want talk therapy. I need you to do these other things. Now he's dictating to me what my job is. Now it's like crossing another line, right? I didn't answer. And in his messages is, no, you are really great. You're right. I have made a lot of improvement. Yes, I've done all the things you're done. but I've had a bad day and I was just releasing. Really? And then he continues to say, but you are the psychologist and I'm the patient. You have to be able to accept that I have these behaviors and you have to accept it. Now, where in the book does that say you have to accept that? Why? Psychologists are not supposed to be accepting behaviors that are belittling or attacking. And like I said, I'm not your friend where you are just calling, or I'm not your girlfriend where you can call and just vent. This is not a venting time. This is a time where you can say, look, I have been working on all the stuff you've told me and I'm ready for the next step. And then he's like, no, you're my only support system. You're the one that really listens to me. In a way, giving himself right, apologizes, and then giving himself right that that's your job. No, I'm sorry, it's not my job. And so the whole night I was thinking, should I have waited for the call and called him? But technically, I didn't have to, since he hasn't paid for the calls. Technically, I didn't have to.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, should I push this person to another level where if you're doing this to me, then that means you're doing it to a lot of people.
Yep.
And that probably explains why you don't have support system. Because if you just think people owe you something and you don't want to take any responsibility to make yourself feel better, then I thought, well, should I respond to this message? Should I leave a voice message? And I did. So this time I didn't.
Good for you. Yeah.
You can cancel my appointment. Yes, I can. I mean, if you've paid for it, obviously, ethically, I am required. But if you haven't paid for it, no, I don't have to. Plus, and then I said in the message, I said, sorry that you think we haven't made any improvement. We have worked on these things. As I explained to you, we can't run before we crawl. And these are the steps that I know how to do. But maybe my style and the way I do therapy doesn't really help you. I suggest you go to another therapist. At this time, I will cancel your appointment. And if you need a referral, I'll be more than happy to give you a referral. But it doesn't seem I'm the right therapist for you. And I ended it that way. And then he kept on sending messages, calling, which I've ignored. I mean, as a psychologist, you're always caught in this struggle. Should I have confronted it in a session? Maybe I should have confronted it in a session. But at the same time, I thought if I do that and still give him a session, then I'm not holding him responsible for his behavior. He needs to be held responsible. Maybe this will change something. I don't know. You see that a lot with patients who are been struggling for a long time, and suddenly they have a misperception of what a therapist can do. It's a process.
No, 100%.
It takes time. It is not something, it's not a pill. Even when we give them a pill, it still doesn't take everything away. The idea is that people's not understanding the process. And even when you explain to them the process, I know that they're anxious because they want to have a normal life. But who says that if I would have introduced a lot of things earlier in the time, then it was going to benefit him anyways?
100%, yeah.
Freud talked a lot about we have to know the right time to introduce certain interjection in order for people to really understand it. If I sit here and just tell you exactly, I mean, it took me forever just to explain the process. You need medication. Then when he does go to the psychiatrist, he takes a prescription and says, no, I was reading about it and there's a lot of side effect. That took another session. So actually, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then you are delaying the progress yourself. It's not my responsibility. I am supposed to just be able to help you. I feel it's really frustrating. This is not just this person. A lot of people come to therapy with the expectation everything is going to go away. And if it's not, then you have failed as a therapist. Now, maybe there are some therapists they're not doing, but you can't judge that in 3 sessions, first of all. But if you're going with someone for 2 months, 3 months, and you still haven't seen any progress and they haven't given you any tools, then maybe you can just question their credentials or question their abilities or
question their integrity.
skills.
That you can question their integrity on that. And it's funny you bring this up because I think it doesn't only apply to your field. I think it applies to a lot of fields that deal with personal coaching or personal development or personal success and someone helping you get there, that people don't want to take those steps necessary and do the homework at home. I think because that is a key important factor, is doing the homework at home yourself. When I used to come and see you when I was a student, you used to give me homework to do the whole count to 10 method when I got angry. You gave me a lot of tools that I used in order to show progress. And I think by the end of it, you had said to me, I've been seeing you for 8 months now. You've made a lot of progress. I just want you to know you have to be ready that you're going to go off on your own sooner or later, because it's my job to equip you with the tools so that you can deal with life and not be reliant on me forever. And some of these people just don't want to do that. It's the same thing with the fitness industry and coaching, like baseball coaching.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is that even with exercising, like you can go and exercise all you want, and then you can't blame the trainer that you haven't lost any weight if you haven't done it with a proper nutrition or diet, or you're not doing the other.
Yeah. Forget about the nutrition. Forget about the diet. What are you doing in the other 23 hours? As a baseball coach, I used to coach kids, and I stopped doing PTs. I stopped coaching on the side because I didn't feel it was ethical on my part, because kids weren't doing the skill work I gave them to do at home. The skill work was important to the work that they were doing with me in the one-on-one hour sessions. That prepares you for what we're about to do. And the same thing with my coach, for instance. My coach told me, we were having a talk and I was joking around. I was like, yeah, dude, like you would fire me? And he goes, oh yeah, I'd fire you. I'd fire any one of my clients if they don't stick to the program, they're not consistent, and they're not doing their homework, because it's essential. Whoever's seeing you is a representation of you later on if they recommend you to someone. It's tough here.
But you know what really bothered me is that this guy is minimizing talk therapy. Hello, first of all, it's not your field. Second of all, I should know, and I'm very trained, and I understand when people are ready for certain intervention. Just because you think that your situation is bad, obviously your situation is going to be bad. The guy sleeps most all day, right? Now he's starting to exercise a little bit. He is not doing his journaling. What am I supposed to do? I mean, what do people expect the therapist should do? Go to your house and start writing the journal for you, or be on the phone with you? The amount of messages that this guy sends me that I don't even charge for, and I'm just being very supportive and nice. Yeah. And to get 2 messages in 2 different days, minimizing what talk therapy is, seriously?
Yeah, that's annoying.
He was trying to say to me, you're not doing your job. I don't want just talk. That's what he said to me. I don't want just talk. I want things more serious things, as if like he's minimizing what talk therapy is about. Hello, talk therapy, there's a purpose for it. And if I thought you were ready for something more, and if I thought that you were really doing things, if it takes you 3 weeks to be able to take a medication that you were prescribed and continue to send me messages, I Googled this, I Googled that, when I just sat a whole hour in a session telling him, you can't Google. Remember that these are just small percentage from a pharmaceutical companies that they have to do to protect themselves. I mean, how much more can you do? And then I thought to myself, and that's why we're going to value system. I was thinking to myself, okay, does this go against my value system? I am not going to let someone belittling. It's against my core belief. I don't allow anyone to belittle me, even if they are patient.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
Having depression doesn't give you an excuse to be able to belittle and to minimize the hard work I've been putting. And exactly that's what he was doing. I was thinking to myself, okay, so this guy is triggering me. And I was wondering, why is he triggering me? It's because also I just spent the whole day talking about people's core belief, talking about people having values and staying true to your values. And to be honest, one of my true values is I will never allow anyone to be able to dump their shit on me, first of all. That's not what psychotherapy
is
about.
We got Dr. D to say the shit word. You really are pissed today, aren't you?
But it's not just him. I think a lot of times people think that this is my therapist and I'm paying her. Yeah. I'm going to dump my shit on her and hold her responsible for my inability to get better. I'm sorry. That's not what psychotherapy is about. And because you're paying, and that's another thing when he used the word paying, I'm paying as if like he owns me. He owns me for that hour. And I thought to myself, no, Juliet, nobody owns me.
Yeah.
This is going against my value system as a psychologist, as a person. And no, I will not. I allowed it the first day and I let it go and I didn't even respond. When you repeat the same message the next day, and then when I confront you, you say to me, oh no, you are great. You're wonderful. No, I didn't mean it. I had a bad day. I was just releasing. Okay. Here it is. You mentioned money. You've mentioned that I am inefficient and ineffective. And you mentioned the idea that I'm supposed to be your dumping ground and that you pay for the service. So therefore I have to accept this. No, I'm sorry. And there are a lot of people like that. It's not just this person. It's just this person's more, this just happened. But because there are people that think I am paying you, so you have to put up with my aggression. You have to put up with you screaming at me. No, it doesn't give anyone rights. This
Yeah.
is like saying my manager or my employer pays me, so I have to be abused. No, I'm not supposed to be abused. That goes against my value system. And it's important that people are aware of their core beliefs and not to compromise. I refuse to compromise my core beliefs, even if it has something to do with my patient-doctor relationship. I won't allow that to happen. And so more and more people really need to be aware of this is the reason why we have people depressed, people stressed, people anxious, people can't sleep. Do you know why? Because throughout the day, they are compromising their value system, their core belief, which means they're compromising themselves. And that's why confidence, self-value, self-esteem gets compromised and people don't really get it.
100%.
But yesterday, I was thinking, I can't be hypocrite, Juliet. You sat there for 5-6 hours teaching people about their core belief. Are you really going to let this person, regardless, I wasn't unethical. I didn't take the session. If you would have paid, I would have had to be honest, that's ethically.
Yeah.
But I figured, no, I'm not going to do that. This goes against my value system. I will not be a hypocrite teaching people to stay true to yourself and then allow this person. And then I have to live with this. And this is going to minimize my sense of self. No, I will not do that. And I didn't.
Good for you.
And I feel like sometimes psychologists were constantly cut, like you said. This goes in a lot of things. It goes with people, even my students. You've got your own things to do. Yeah. I give you readings. If you come to class and you're not ready, how is you failing a class my responsibility? And people don't want to own it. They don't want to own.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yep.
And they want to dump it on someone else. If it's your therapist, if it's your teacher, if it's your coach, your trainer. And no, I will not allow dumping. Dumping, it's against my core belief. And I won't do it. Even if it has something to do with losing a client. I will refer them.
Did you refer him off? Are you going to fire him as a client? Like, I mean...
No, I'm going to give it some time. I'm not going to fire him as a client because I think he really needs help. I think I'm just going to wait a little bit and see if he's going to own more and give him some time to really think about his behavior. And then I will give him a recommendation where he can go somewhere else, or he can continue with me with an understanding that what you have done goes against my core belief. I will not allow that. So if you think therapy is about a dumping ground, it's not. I will not allow myself to be abused by no clients. Verbal abuse, this attack. So every time you have a bad day or things are going bad in your family, you think it's okay to call me and leave me a message that's nasty because you were really, I mean, he technically used the word, I was releasing.
Yeah,
and who gave you that right to release this way and belittle all the work I have done? For a short period of time, actually, I feel like we've done amazing. If you can't see that, then how is that my fault? It's not my fault.
That would seriously piss me off.
Yes.
If I was in that position, I would definitely be pissed. There have been times as a coach, I have been in that position with players and I've had parents come up to me and say, why isn't my kid improving? Why isn't this happening? I'm like, dude, your kid's not putting in the work. What do you want me to do? He shows up a half an hour late for practice. I give them all the tools. I send them the videos they need. I'm available 24/7 for you and your kids to contact me. And now you're coming over and asking me why this person hasn't improved quickly. Well, Rome wasn't built in a day. Realistically, people need to understand
exactly. And people need to understand there's a process. I mean, especially in psychotherapy, there is a process. The reason why I don't introduce certain things is because that's why I'm the doctor and you're the client. I can tell. Believe me, earlier in my years when I didn't have experience, I could see exactly what's wrong with the person. And I would say exactly what I saw. And guess what? It was a waste of time. You know why? And then later on, 3 months, 6 months, a year after they've had enough insight, they've learned a lot about themselves, they'll come and repeat the same statement I told them 6 months ago. But this time they believe it. You know why? Because it came from within them. When I was not seasoned and didn't understand, I used to think, oh, I know the intervention. Let me just give it to them. And when you give it to them, they are not ready. They're not going to hear you. They won't do it. But when it comes from within them, then it makes more sense. And that's why they do it.
Yeah.
So there is a process. And you can have someone who's been clinically depressed over 40 some years suddenly expect that he knows more than me in this process because he's not seeing improvement, but there were improvement. These little steps that you're doing, that's what we call improvement. Now, people need to really change their expectation when they're going to psychotherapy. Are you expecting to be better after one session? Then don't go, because there's nobody that's going to be a miracle worker. Give yourself 6 months and say, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to do the homework. And then in 6 months or 3 months, if I don't see any improvement, then she's not the right therapist. Then I believe that. But you cannot just think therapists and psychotherapists are your dumping ground because you've had a bad day and suddenly I'm the bad person because you haven't improved. First of all, medication. It takes 2 weeks to see changes in medication. He's only been on it 3 days. How is that possible?
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
And again, we go back. I think a lot of people they really compromise their value system. And this situation had taught me, and many situations, that when I did compromise my core belief, you end up being abused more and more. You end up being unhappy. You end up being angry at yourself. And you end up being anxious, stressed, insomnia, although you're compromising your well-being. And people really need to understand that. This guy, maybe his core belief is it's okay to dump. I don't know. But if you are the person, in relationship, you see it all the time.
Yeah,
where someone has compromised their core belief because they want to keep the marriage, or because they think before marriage, they think that they can change this person. Like yesterday, I was talking to this person who religion is a core belief. It's a value for her, right? To be, especially in Ramadan, that there are certain rituals she likes to adhere to. And she's engaged to someone that is not at all in that same value system. Well, a lot of times people think, oh, well, he'll get there. Yes, he will change and he'll make it there. Well, then you are. And that's why she's unhappy and she's anxious, because she's compromised a core belief that says religion is important to me. This person that she's with, although they're from the same religion, but he's no way where she is. And can he change? Yes. But you are at this time compromising your core belief, your values, to be accommodating him, which later on, it doesn't do you any good because you've compromised part of yourself. And if more people would think about what are my value systems? How much can I compromise? These are my core beliefs. Is it okay to compromise it? What is this going to do to me? People need to stay true to themselves, not realize that, oh yeah, I have these core beliefs and I really believe in them, but for love, I'll give it up. It's difficult to walk away in marriage. It's the same thing in your job. When your boss is asking you to do something that goes against your core belief, do you do it or do you not do it? It's difficult to walk away, but at the same time, remember that if you give in and compromise one core belief, the next belief, the third belief, it's going to take a toll on you. Self-hate. This is what self-hate is all about.
You sell out on your integrity. Once you sell out on your integrity, what do you have left? You're left with empty pockets. And that's one thing I think people don't have, or not people in general. I don't want to generalize everybody, but there are a lot of individuals that don't have integrity when it comes to doing business. Let's talk business-wise. A lot of people don't have integrity when it comes to business. There are a lot of trainers, dietitians, people that are in the self-help field, and we've talked about this countless times on shows, where they get a weekend certificate or whatever. And in my opinion, they probably think they're doing really good, but you have to justify the integrity that you have. Am I able to go out and be a life coach and tell people what to do with their lives if I only did this in a weekend and I have zero experience to go along with it? To me, you lack that general integrity or you're just stupid. Those are my two things. And from what you're saying is weird here, because I agree with you on the points that you're making.
Maybe sometimes, in my experience,
it's everywhere though now.
But a lot of times people don't know their core belief. And sometimes they don't really have that. For example, if you don't like lying and one of your core beliefs is I don't lie, and then you lie to your boss, then you can call that hypocrisy. But really what you're saying is that you just went against your core belief. What that means is that, remember, you just went against something that you truly believe in, that I don't like that. It's the same thing as if you don't like cheating, and you refuse to accept to be with someone that cheated, but then you accept your husband cheating. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that every time someone cheats that I have to walk away, but people need to have an awareness that if your core belief is that I don't accept cheating in a relationship, and then my husband or my wife cheated, you have to understand you just went against one of your core beliefs, which is your values. That means that it has to have, you've compromised it. That compromisation has an effect on your well-being. That's the only thing people need to understand. Now, what you're going to do, will you accept him? Will you not accept him? How can you reframe that core belief? That's something else. But the idea of people compromising all the time because they don't want to make this person upset, or maybe because they don't want to lose this person, maybe because they think it's okay to do it one time. People just need to have an insight into what is your core belief and how does that have an effect on your psyche, on your sense of self. Don't complain to me that you've had a lot of stress, you've had insomnia, you are suffering from depression when all your life you've compromised your core belief. That's the only thing. If people would just realize and be honest with themselves that I am in a relationship that I have compromised my values, then you have to understand the reason you're not happy. It's not because of the relationship. It's because you have developed this self-hate because you've compromised your value system.
Let's be realistic, Dr. D. And I think this goes with the general population. We've talked about general populations before. And the general, I know, right? It took me a while to get that one out there.
Population.
I know, right? And obviously, you've bitched a lot about generalization, especially in the last episode where I ran off one of your friends that was on the show.
Really? Oh, my God. It goes against my core belief. I refuse to accept.
But it was a good
Oh
debate.
my God. My friend afterwards, she's like, Juliet, I just missed, because I oftentimes, when my core beliefs are being questioned, I use that word. I refuse to believe. So it's like, I love hearing you saying, I refuse to believe. That's the way I remind myself that one of my core beliefs is being questioned. By telling myself, I refuse to believe.
Again, that's a perfect point. But you know what core beliefs are.
Yeah, my core belief. I know what they are.
You know what they are, but I think for the general population, and for me, myself, I didn't know what my core belief system was until DJ was born. And when he was born, it was like, okay, I need to find myself and do some self-actualization right now, because I'm going to bring a son into this world, be his number one role model. But what he sees me doing, he's probably going to do later in life, even when he grows into an adult. But if I lie, cheat, and steal, guess what? Most likely, he's going to lie, cheat, and steal.
Right. That's very true.
A book I highly recommend for listeners and for yourself, if you haven't read it already, is The 4 Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. And what he talks about is 4 core agreements, and these are core beliefs. And it's basically don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, be true to yourself, be honest, general things. But he breaks it down in such a beautiful way that makes you kind of sit there and think, wow, I used to do a lot of this before. I need to stop. I need to set a new system for myself. I was 34 when I actually understood my core beliefs and my core belief system. And it's definitely not an easy thing to understand at a later age, especially because...
Of course, I don't want people to think that in your 20s and you should know exactly. But there are certain core beliefs that we have from the beginning that we've developed as children, like don't lie, don't steal. I think the majority of the families do teach that, or you learn it in religion or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's very rare you'll see a kid that hasn't heard this. Now, if they're doing it at home or not, that's a different story. There are certain general systems that we have. And then the older we get, the more experience we have, we either highlight them and really make them very pillars of our life and the way we guide our life throughout whatever, or some of them we minimize and think it's not that important anyways, and then we rebuild on new one. Not everyone has it, but there are general core beliefs that people have, and then we add more to it. But the idea is that what I have noticed is people don't even sit with themselves to even think about what are my value system. I mean, maybe I've learned from my family not to steal, but I don't think there's anything wrong with stealing. Well, then you need to redefine that, right? Maybe you've realized from the beginning, I will never allow someone to belittle me. But then you're married to someone who belittles you all the time.
Yeah.
All right. That core belief is out of the window because you've compromised it. Now, if you changed and said to yourself, it's okay, I'll be littering by him means this is the way he loves me, for example. Again, we make excuses for ourselves to be able to accept certain conditions. But you have to understand that values can change, but compromising should not change. We should never compromise, whatever it is.
100%. I just want to go back to that book. It's Don Miguel Ruiz. the 4 agreements. And the first agreement or the first thing he talks about is impeccable with your word, keeping your word, basically. The second one is don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions and always do your best. And the assumptions one I always loved because I had a boss that always said, do you know what assume means? I was like, what? He goes, assumption means asshole. He's like, you're an asshole if you always make assumptions because you're an ass. Yeah. And I just looked at him, and my old boss, Omar, taught me so much.
What is it called? You're making an ass out of you and me?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. But he used it in a different way. He said, it means asshole. You're an asshole. And he drilled that in me. And I mean, Omar was a great boss. This guy taught me everything essential when I first started out in marketing. And it's so true. Like when you read a book like this, if it doesn't impact you, Meg read this book. She read this book.
I have to read it now.
It's a great book. I swear to God, it is not a waste of time. When she read it, she goes, you actually read books? And I was like, of course I read books.
That's one of your core beliefs. I read books.
Look, I don't read books all the time, but when I pick up a book, I don't do fiction. Fiction sucks, in my opinion. I always look for either success stories, and not your like Richard Bronson, Mike McKinsey, street soldier.
Yeah.
He was a tough guy for Whitey Bulger. And then he quit the crime scene, got his degree, wrote a book, straightened out his life, and did amazing things in his life. Those are books that I like because there's factual things you can use, tools that you can use from that and implement it in your life versus, I don't know, I can't find Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, a 500-page book, entertaining, to be honest with you. But
yeah, it's true.
I highly recommend this book for anybody out there.
I think I'm going to start recommending it for my clients because I think that they really need to understand. I mean, because when you say to people value system, oftentimes they just think about things that we've learned in religion. But I think
he goes in depth. Even for the bad readers, the audiobook is really good. First, I read the hardcover and then I read the audiobook because sometimes there's a difference between them.
I love audiobooks because I don't have time. I mean, with my lectures and reading for my students and my preparation, I miss the idea that in the US, for example, we always have long ride. So audiobooks were great because you're sitting in the car most of the time. And then you can hear a lot of things that these books give us tools. But when we're talking about core beliefs and values, I think that they change with experience. Like you're saying, I wasn't until 34, 35 when I really understood these are the things I believe in. You have to be able to understand. I mean, if you don't know what your value system is or your core belief, and it's okay to add to it, and they're not something that have to be major. I think what we need to understand is that there are simple things like, I don't accept people belittling me, which means that if I was ever in a relationship that I'm belittled or abused, I'm going to walk away. And I have to be true to myself. I cannot compromise that. I mean, I understand that requires a lot of guts, and walking away is not that easy. But you also have to understand when you compromise and you don't walk away, you are allowing yourself to have this deterioration. Your mental health gets deteriorated. Your physical health gets deteriorated. You start to build this self-hate because you're not being true to yourself. People are willing to compromise their sense of self, their wellness, and their mental health because I need to make this person happy or because I don't want to confront this person. I mean, maybe at my age, I don't give a shit. And I understand that when you're younger, maybe you have a lot more that you are at risk, but at stake. I understand that. But still, if I'm at a job and I feel this boss or this type of job I'm doing really compromises a lot of my core belief, I start looking for another job.
Yeah,
I don't just sit there and see, this is the problem. People don't want to make changes. They want to stay with whatever, but then they want to complain and they want to hate themselves every day, waking up, going to that job, knowing that they've compromised a lot of their core beliefs, but they don't want to make any effort into making changes, changing departments, changing the skill or the job. So to make myself believe, even how in relationship, this is the worst I see, Mahdi. No, he will change. I don't believe in lying, but it's okay for me to lie because I'm making him happy. Yes, you could do that, but remember, I mean, no problem. People could do whatever they want. What in my job is that I have to sit here and explain to people, no problem. You want to stay in this relationship? I just want to help you understand you are compromising value 1, value 2, value 3. You have to understand there is a long-term effect, which means your mental health, your sleep, your anxiety. You're putting yourself at risk to be vulnerable for these disorders. I just want to be clear. Now you have to make the decision of what you want to do in your life. And that's my job. Now, my job is not to tell her, no, you're compromising, you got to leave. My job is to bring in awareness. And it's so interesting to me how many people are willing to compromise their self, really their self, for other people.
What I love is how you said it straight up. If you do that, you're going to feel like shit afterwards and you're not going to really know why. And that's an important point. I mean, you really brought up a good point with that because a lot of people won't understand why they lied for someone else and they might not even know it. And they're treating everyone around them like shit and blowing up every 2 seconds because they were under such a high level of stress because they're carrying it in their unconscious that they were a piece of shit for whatever they did. All of a sudden, someone says something and it triggers you into reliving that moment. And then all hell breaks loose afterwards. And it's just...
And you know, what you see is a lot of times people, obviously clients, they come to help because they don't have enough insight into their problem. They think their problem is anger, but they don't understand that, yes, there is anger, but it's anger more about your anger towards yourself, the self-hate because you've compromised. Like it's my job to explain that. So the idea, a lot of times we compromise and we indirectly start to behave in different ways. And without us realizing that I am feeling insomniac, for example, because I have compromised my core belief for a while. Now, it's not just about one incident, like one incident and your boss tells you to lie. Okay, you understand, but you tell yourself, I will never put myself in that situation. The next time my boss asks me to lie, I have to be very clear with him saying, look, I don't like lying. And when I lie, I feel bad. When you say these things, you're realizing you've compromised one time, you're not going to compromise again. It's not about one time it happens, I have to walk away or I have to find another relationship. Is being able to be honest with that person and say, look, when you put me in situation, I had a classmate, the compromising we have to do as friends is that she was cheating, right? I felt the idea at that time, of course, I'm in my 20s, but all the time at that time, I was like, okay, why am I lying for this person? So she was like in a relationship, but she was cheating with another person. Okay. Here I thought to and then she was asking, so whenever her partner would ask her, where are you? Oh, I'm at Juliet. Oh, I'm with whatever. And then finally I realized, and then I was getting really angry at myself and at her. I was starting to get more stressed. And then I realized at that time, of course, we were in training to be therapists. And I realized part of what is causing me this distress is maybe because I don't accept cheating in no form or shape. I don't respect people that do cheat in relationship. And therefore, I think at that time, I realized, well, this is not right. Maybe at that time, I thought it's not right. I don't like lying. But now thinking about it, the reason why I told this person I will no longer be your friend is because she was forcing me to compromise something that was very important to me. I had to confront her. And even though I really liked the person and she was one of my best friends. I said, look, you either stop using me and you could do whatever you want, but you can't use me to lie for you. You could still be my friend. I don't care whatever you do, but I am not going to accept that you put me in this situation where your partner calls me and I have to lie to the person. Hey, I don't like lying and I don't accept what you're doing. But a lot of times people, at that time I was feisty already. Lots of people are not willing to confront this person and say, look, what you have done compromises my core belief. I don't like it. When you do these things, it costs me anger. I hate myself for doing this. And I don't want to live like this. So you either change or whatever it is that you're doing, I can't be part of it. People need to really be clear if you really love yourself. Now, if you don't love yourself and you love this hate and anger that you have, and you love being anxious and you like having insomnia, and that's fine. People have choices. So don't tell me, people always tell me, well, I don't have a choice. He forced me to. People have choices. It might not be the choice you want, but we've got choices.
Look, I used to lie a lot when I was younger. I used to lie like a friggin' rug. And no, seriously. And it started.
I love your honesty.
Look, that's one thing I've learned is now I'm a completely honest person. And sometimes I'm a little too honest. And like Dr.D, I'll have verbal diarrhea. And people around me don't like that I'm so honest with what I'm thinking, but I really don't care because at the end of the day, I look at myself in the mirror and I'm proud of myself, so I don't give a shit. But
And that's important,
it
I
is.
think.
It's very important for my
It's the most
self-belief.
important thing. Exactly.
But when I used to lie, I started pushing people away from me. I had no core beliefs. I was younger. That wasn't there. It wasn't formulated, or I wasn't mature enough to get there.
Mm.
But when I understood that even those small little white lies, okay, that I even used to tell into my early 30s, was up until I read that book, that's when I stopped lying completely. And I feel that I tell the truth probably 99.999% of the time, even to DJ. I won't lie about something. I'll tell him the truth about it. If he asks me an awkward question now, I tell him the truth. Because look, at the end of the day, you're going to lie and get caught. Sometimes the
And then
fear...
they disrespect you.
Exactly, yeah.
For me, it's like, okay, I will not lie, but maybe I'm not ready to share the answer. Like sometimes when they're asking about things like what happened with their father or me or whatever, sometimes I feel like there are information they don't really need to know, or they won't understand it anyways. Nothing big happened, Yanni. I don't lie, but I'll say that there are certain things that I don't think it's important for us to discuss.
Yeah.
The most important is that you have a good relationship with me and him. That's to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Again, people need to understand. It doesn't mean I'm very transparent. People that know me, I will not lie for anything.
There's one point I wanted to bring up too. The anxiety of fear of getting caught also. That's a big one.
Yes.
That's a huge one.
Yes. And see, that is compromising your core belief.
100%.
Because when people compromise, then they're putting themselves at the risk of this anxiety that I'm going to get caught. Is it really worth it? That's what I tell my clients. Is it worth it? Is it worth that I can't sleep because I have so many secrets and I've lied so much but people, again, they don't connect this connection. They don't have it. They don't see that. What does that have to do with it, Dr. D? I'm lying. What does that have to do with me having anxiety? So many people I work with that don't really see that there is a bridge that goes with the level of anxiety is connected to your core beliefs.
100%.
Now, it also is connected to environment and genetic. I'm not minimizing that, but people need to understand, people need to do some self-reflection of, okay, so I'm reflecting, but if you don't have any understanding of your core belief, you need to sit down and write down, even if they're 3 or 4. They don't have to be a lot.
Speaking of, I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners who loves the show, Catherine. I love her to death. She's a Pilates coach, and she's an amazing Pilates teacher at that.
Hi, Catherine. Yay,
she's
Catherine.
out of ARC, and she's doing a lot of online psychology courses right now, too.
Oh,
So
good
she
for
sent me
her.
a link, but I haven't been able to watch it yet, about how the CIA catches people when they lie. Defensive liars, and how quickly they get defensive. And it's so true. I'm going to forward you the link.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to shout out to her because we were just having this conversation about liars and defensive liars. And it relates exactly to what you're talking about in terms of it's easy to spot a liar. Have you ever seen Lie to Me? The show Lie to Me came out in 2008. It was a guy who was like, he could look at you and tell if you were lying in a second because of your body language. There are people that do that.
There are.
There are a lot of people.
There's a science behind that, or at least branch of psychology. I mean, that's what FBI and CIA get trained with, body language. I mean, it's not a science, but there is a body language that psychologists, or even people who are not psychologists.
Can you tell when Larson's lying to you?
I can tell. Now, not because I'm expert in that thing, because his body language and the lie comes out so quickly and it's not organized. And so I catch him all the time. He's like, I hate having a mom who's a shrink. Okay? So I just use my shrink power, but it's mostly the behavior. He looks anxious. I mean, he's a teenager. They do these things. I mean, just like you're saying with DJ, I want him and Larsa to be able to, I want to be able to develop some of their core beliefs that we don't lie, tell the truth. You're going to have the same consequences.
100%,
And to me, I tell them, it's worse when I catch you lying. The discipline I'm going to give you, knowing that you are telling the truth on something that you've done bad, it's totally different from if I catch you lying, that's worse for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm embedding that to them, that there's nothing that should make you terrified to tell me or tell us because you're worried about, I'm constantly aware that these are important core beliefs that I have to ingrain in my children because it's my job as a parent. And then after that, he's going to go and start developing his own core belief. And maybe they'll be different from mine. But
once you instill some of those, like some of those small ones, those innate ones that will come naturally from an early age. I mean, like it's like with DJ, we're putting in some really important core beliefs with him. One is lying, not to lie and just always tell the truth. And the second one is to treat everybody equal. Don't look down on it. And the third one, which I've been a stickler about lately, is accepting responsibility and cleaning up after yourself and doing the small things that are important. Because in our society here in Kuwait, for the people, the listeners outside, there are a lot of children here that can't take care of themselves at a young age because they have nannies. So for me, knowing that my child can, to the simplest thing, like wiping his own bottom, getting dressed on his own. These are things that a lot of kids don't learn here till they're like 7 or 8 years old. I never knew kids didn't learn that in Kuwait till they were like 8. When I heard that, I was like, but developmentally, is everything okay? Yeah, everything's okay. But the nanny does A, B, and C. I knew a doctor who moved out of Kuwait because he said, for me, when I saw my kid at 8 years old with the nanny feeding him, he was like, that's it. I have to draw the line so these kids learn some core values outside of Kuwait and how to take care of themselves because it's important.
One of the reasons I'm sending Larson to boarding, I mean, he's a great guy. So every time somebody says, oh, boarding, is that military? It's not military. I mean, not every boarding is military. I'm sending him to the U.S. because I think that, right now at home, I'm trying to push independence. They make their own bed. They clean their own room. They have to clean after themselves every time we eat. So these things, but I'm home. I know when I'm not home, the nanny, even though she has all the right, and I've told her I don't have a problem, she still wants to do it herself because she doesn't have the patience that I have by sitting there and supervising them doing it. For them, they just want to do their job. A lot of times, even when I put a chores, when I used to work outside of the house, putting a list of things that they got to do, I know it wasn't followed unless I'm here. Yeah. And I think this sense of independence is important. Our kids here, look at you and me. We are very stickler about holding yourself responsible. And like I tell my kids, the nanny doesn't work for you. Yeah. I pay her salary. I am the one that's going to ask her what to do. She doesn't work for you. I constantly tell them this.
And DJ's like 5. I almost lost my shit when he was like, can you get me a bottle of water? I was like, dude, get off your bottom and go get your own bottle of water. Are you kidding me?
DJ is 5. Larson is 15. And every time we sit at the same story, can you get me water? And now, khalas, after several months of saying this, we all look at him like that. No one moves. Because before, the nanny would get up right away. And I said, sit down. For 3 months ago, I said, you will not move. Let's see what happens. If you need water that bad, it's so easy. It's behind you. It's around. Before you sit. But it's true. If DJ is 5, Larson is like, well, what's wrong with her getting me water? Because she's not going to. One of my core beliefs is that my kids have to be very independent and responsible.
Yeah,
and that's what we're going to work on. Yes.
DJ took his dish to the sink yesterday, and I made a huge deal out of it. I was so proud of him. My pride as a dad, I was so incredibly proud of what DJ did. Just by the smallest thing, taking his dish to the sink. I gave him a reward. I said, you did a great job. And then today we got him. I just bought Hey got a new car, by the way.
Oh, she did. Congratulations.
Shout out to Volvo.
Yeah.
They have amazing vehicles over at Volvo. I love their cars. They're the safest cars I've bought. Hey has been into 2 accidents. They're safe. So I told her, I said, look, I'm going with safety. We're getting another Volvo. We got the XC60.
What'd you get?
The XC60, the bigger Jeep. It's nice. Yeah. It's really nice.
All right. Oh, congratulations.
The deal was with them, I was like, look, I'll buy the car. But if you guys don't have one of those little toy cars that DJ can drive, the battery armor, I was like, the deal's off. I got to make mom
Did they give you one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They hooked it up.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, there was a little extra cost with it, but whatever. I mean, DJ's happy. I went down today. He was cleaning his car. He was washing his car.
Good job.
And I had to explain to him, obviously, don't use water and electricity. Yeah. I sat and did it with him with a damp rag, and he buffed it out, and he kept saying, Daddy, I got to clean this. And I said, you have to take care of your toys and make sure they're okay. And it's those small little things, those core values. If people grow up with it, they keep them forever. And even like you said, me and you tell me to do something, or if I want to do something, I get it done. I just get it done. It's a core thing now where if I'm going to put a tent up, I'm just going to go do it. I'm not going to wait for someone to help. I'm not going to wait for anyone. You want to help, great. But it's a core value now that get done. You do it. You do it more than me.
Exactly. And you know what? You can't instill core beliefs in your kids that you don't believe in it. For example, one of my biggest value system is that when you make a commitment, you stick to that commitment, no matter what happens. I know Larson and Larsa, sometimes there's an opportunity, for example, to do an online classes. I have to sit down because I know how they are, especially Larson. Like he'll start with an activity and he won't finish it. It's one of the biggest things with Larson I have to work on. The idea is that one of the things I instill in them is that it's important that once we make a commitment and we paid money for a class, I don't care how much you are struggling, unless there is a physical abuse to you or some sort of an abuse, we are committed. I don't care how much you hate it, especially with Larson, to do an online class with his skating classes. They have off skating, whatever.
Yeah.
It's an exercise that they have to do. Just 2 weeks ago, they started. I got the email and I said, look, Larson, this thing costs money. And I need to make sure that you understand when we make a commitment, we pay, we stick to it no matter how much you hate exercising. And I constantly make this comment. So when he signs up and he says, no, I'm tired. I don't want to do it today. What do you think I say to him? Nope. One of my beliefs is that when you make a commitment, we stick to our commitment. And I do that too. I mean, I make commitment and then later on I think, oh my God, why did I tell them I want to do this project? Why did I say that I'm going to do this talk? I don't have time for this. But then if I cancel, then I feel that I just went against one of the things that I'm instilling in my kids and one of my beliefs. I make a commitment no matter how much I hate. Once I say yes, that's it. I stick to my yes, even though I don't want to. I think this is another thing is that people need to understand there are certain things we're instilling in our kids that we also have to believe ourselves. We can't say to our kids, you don't lie. And then one of my belief and value here in this household is we don't lie. But then they hear me lying to my friend or to my boss or to other people. Then you're going against and you're compromising one of these beliefs that you just told your kids about. I mean, before we finish, I think people, they need to start naming their values and their core beliefs. And 2, they have to be committed to keeping these core values and not compromising them because, again, I want to say it again and again, compromising your core beliefs compromises your sense of self and your mental health. Just remember that. You want to compromise, do it all you want. But you have to understand that there is an aftermath of so many years and months of compromising our values. And I think it's very important for people to realize. So if you're not getting better in therapy because you've compromised 40 some years of values, you can't blame the psychotherapist because she's failed you as a person. I can't do anything when you compromise. I can do something by helping you come back on track, but it's not the therapist's job to continue to allow you to compromise your values, and then you have to compromise my values. I won't do that.
Makes sense.
That's my speech. Thank you so much for being my therapist today.
You're welcome, Doctor. On a side note, I don't know if you saw my story yesterday, but I seem to have ruffled a lot of feathers with the question I posed on Instagram. I mean, I got called names, everything in the book yesterday.
I don't know what you did. I'm sorry.
You didn't see my story? Oh my God.
I was so busy yesterday.
It's
what
cool.
happened?
Because I wanted to get your take on this from a psychologist perspective, because we just talked about, and I said, is it all necessary? A trainer, a coach, a dietitian, movement specialist, physical therapist, psychologist / life coach. Do we really need all of these if we're fitness enthusiasts? And of course, I got lit up by a lot of people, especially professionals, but the ones who were extremely confident in their ability in like as a trainer, a dietitian, or a psychologist or a life coach, they were the ones who said, you don't really need all of these. We just teach you, give you the tools, and then you should be off on your own. The ones who sucked were the ones who got extremely defensive over this.
They're not good at what they do.
Exactly. And they have like a fear of being caught. What's your take on, we go through life now, I think more so now than in the 90s, where we think we need all of these people around us in order to get through daily routines. Do we really need all of that? Or do you think part of it is, you know, a fictional story that's just been a marketing ploy that's made us all believe we need all these things around us? Obviously, if someone's clinically depressed, they should go see you. But if someone is not really clinically depressed and they just need someone to talk to, so they're like, oh, I'm going to book with a psychologist, wouldn't that be taking away time from someone that really could use your services more? Does that make any sense?
No, yeah, but I disagree with you. I think we all need these people because remember, these people are serving as a support system. Now, you go to a crook and you go into someone calling themselves like a coach and they're not really a coach. Now, that's a different issue. We've talked about that topic.
Don't you think people are going over the top with
it
now?
They're not taking time. No, they're not.
But
if someone
you don't think people are going over the top right now with all this stuff? Come on. In the 80s and 90s, Your generation didn't need all
You're
this
talking
stuff.
about two different. No, hold on a minute. You're
Hold on,
talking
all
about
right.
two different.
Let's say going over the top. Do you think
You're trying. Let me understand. What you're trying to say is that people need to be a lot more self-sufficient, and they
Yes,
need to work on
100%.
some things on their own, and they don't need all the support. I agree with that point. But I also agree that a lot of people out there, they don't have a social support system. They've got the fake social support system where I look good in front of my family, I look good in front of my friends, and I need these other people who I am paying so that way they could be a support system. That's a different story.
That's what I meant. Like if I go see you as a psychologist, I shouldn't be seeing you for more than what, 6 months? 6 months is the rule of thumb?
No, there's a difference. If you come to me and the psychologist, if she's ethical and he's ethical, they know that your problem, it's the same thing as like you go to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist should be ethical enough to say, look, your problem doesn't need medication, but you need Juliet. Right?
Yeah.
And then when they come to me and I realized, like, why? There was a guy just yesterday, I had seen him for something simple, anxiety, panic in a certain situation. And I've only seen him 3 times. Yesterday, I said to him, look, you don't need to see me anymore. I'm going to move you because we move you from weekly. So we don't cut loose just like that to twice a month and then once a month and then goodbye.
Yeah.
And then I said, see, look, 3 sessions and he was doing great. I said, so ethical people recognize
that's good.
That you don't need me for 5 times. You don't need me for months.
100%.
You've done really well. I mean, yesterday, 3 people, I said 3 people or 2 people. One, I already said, I'm not seeing you.
Yeah.
One, I said, you're doing really great. I think we're going to move you in 3 weeks. One, I said, every 2 weeks, I'm going to see you and then we'll see the progress. That's what an ethical person should do. Now, if we're talking about these unethical, so it's not the client's problem. It's the problem of all these professionals that want to have the money and they don't want to be honest. And they're justifying it by saying this person needs me when they know this person doesn't need you once a week. They need you once a month.
That's what one of the good physical therapists said. He wrote a response, said, look, initially, if you have aches and pains, you need us. You come to us. We give you the tools. You need to do the homework at home and eventually kind of distance yourself from us after a while. That's what I did with some of the best physical therapists. That's what I did with you. Remember? That's what I did with you.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what you do with a tutor also. Tutors should equip you with those tools, coaches, trainers.
Yes.
And that's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, but
I was just saying, A, in my opinion, people are going over the top with it. And B, now people are taking advantage of the situation where they are trying to suck more and more money out of clients by saying, you need to keep coming, you need to keep coming. And it's wrong because then...
Mahdi, you have to... hold on. I'm very big... That's another core value. I'm big on holding people accountable. So that's another value. Wow, you guys learned a lot about my core value today.
I know, Dr. D spilled
the other core
out.
value, the other core value is I truly believe in holding people responsible. I hold myself responsible. I hold my children responsible. I hold my friends. People need to be held responsible that you yourself know that when you're improved. You don't need to listen to this person convincing you to come every week. If you feel like you've gotten better, which we've talked about that with our last guest, she was saying about parents' instinct. But on the other side, when I go to my doctor and I know I've improved, it is one of my core beliefs that I should hold myself responsible to tell this person, look, I'm doing really well right now. I don't need to continue with you.
Yeah.
So it's not just the professional responsibility. It's also the client's responsibility. You can Google, when do I stop therapy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so simple. And then you go to the person and say, look, you might think that I need to see you every day. I feel like I need a break, like people have done to me.
Yeah, no,
I've done to other people. So it's not just like, do they need all these people? Also, the client should take responsibility to realize, I know when my body is doing better. I know when dieting, I've gotten to my results. I know when I'm sleeping better and I don't need to see my doctor for sleeping problem. I'm not that stupid. I should also make the decision. It's not up to the professional because it's my job to make sure it's my money. To me, I disagree that we're dumping it all on the professionals, but we also have to hold people accountable.
That's the point that I wanted to make. And honestly, I think people do go over the top with it. B, look, if you have the money and to each their own and you want to spend on having 9 professionals and you're not a professional athlete, then that's your prerogative. That's totally up to you if you have it financially. But what pisses me off is the people that want to get into getting more healthier, advancing in a wellness life or whatever. Then they think they get into it and they're like, what? I have to have a dietitian? I have to have a therapist? I have to have a life coach? I have to have this? And it deters them away from it. And I had this conversation with someone. They were like, yeah, but I don't have a physical therapist. I was like, dude, if you want to go to the gym, you don't have to have a physical therapist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to have a coach. Like, there's so much of this now, everyone's ingraining you need one-on-one. You need this one-on-one. And you really don't. I mean, I was fine for 20 years. You know what I mean? Like,
no, it's true. It's true. And it's also my job to make sure that they understand as a therapist, like, you don't really need, like, it's the same thing. Do I really need medication? You don't really need a psychiatrist. You only need a therapist. And then whenever they're talking to me about certain things, it's also my job as a professional to say, look,
you have integrity and ethics.
Exactly. That's another core belief. And then
you would tell someone to their face, you would say, look, I really don't think you need me.
You need me.
No, yeah.
I'm not going to keep you. And I say to my client, look, I could sit here and say to you that you really need me for 6 months and I can benefit. I mean, it's the same thing with this guy. I could have just called him and then he would have paid for that session. And I had ethics, and the person, what I started, about this person belittling me, I could have just called and put up with his belittling and made money on that hour.
Yeah,
but I had decided, I don't care about your money. I don't care about the session. Because you're belittling me and downgrading all my effort when I've been really spending a lot of time and I don't even charge you for that time, this is going against my core beliefs. So I did the right thing. I said, I don't think that I'm the right therapist for you. I think you need to find another therapist that maybe utilizes some other tools that might help you progress faster. And so the idea is that I could have just continued, taking the money from him, saying whatever I wanted to say, and convince him to come and see me next week. But I didn't want to do that. It's not worth my core belief.
Again, you have ethics. Not a lot of people have that, unfortunately.
But also, it's somebody's responsibility to Google and say, what are the ethics of physical therapists?
People don't want to take responsibility anymore. Come on.
Then not taking responsibility, then they should take responsibility that they're going to lose a lot of money because they haven't done their homework. I'm sorry.
Oh, shit. One last question before we go. I meant to ask this like 45 minutes ago, but you went off on a different tangent.
Yeah, I was tangenting.
Now, do you think right now in this day and age, because we have information so readily at our fingertips with a phone and everything, that the impatience has been created because of how quick we can get things? You know how you said people are impatient about taking steps?
Yeah.
Now, do you think...
We live in a fast-paced world where an answer is snap of our fingers. So they think therapy is the same way. They think training is the same way. Everyone wants results right away because they're not patient. And it is. Think about it, especially the new generation or starting from the millennials. What do? Everything is a snap. Everything is a Google. Everything is an answer, which is fine. The idea is that it's fine. You could do that, but you have to also understand that it's the same thing as like people that are diagnosed with really severe chronic illnesses. They don't get better right away.
Sure,
I mean, cancer patients, people with high blood pressure, they always have it. The idea is that it takes time. So we have to be realistic. There are things that we could do very quick, and there are things that we have to exercise patience. But you're right. I think we're so used to this like quick, that now we've lost focus on what needs time and what needs, quickness.
Sweet.
And I think, again, people need to really be held responsible. It's not just my responsibility. It's also their responsibility for being my clients, right?
Awesome. On that note, if you guys want your blood to boil, go follow me, Mehdi Alon, MAHDIALOWN on Instagram, and I will eventually piss you off sooner or later. Dr.D.
Oh my God, we can't keep you out of trouble.
Dr.D's Instagram is all in Arabic, but if you go on the Project Kuwait, her Instagram is all in English, so we make up for it right there. And if you've been listening this whole time, thanks for listening, and please don't forget to leave us a rating and review.
Yes, true.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.